Chapter 13, Raising Lions. If you've ever looked at modern schooling, pediatric medicine, or the way childhood is being handled, and thought, something is very wrong here, this chapter is for you. We're talking about how sensitive, creative, awake children are being mislabeled, medicated, overprogrammed, and what it actually looks like to protect, nourish, and educate them differently. Chapter 13, Raising Lions. A quiet travesty has unfolded across Western nations, not just in the medicine cabinet, but in the classroom. Our school systems, once envisioned as pathways to empowerment, have become machinery for control. From kindergarten through college, the structure of education runs counter to how children naturally learn. We prize conformity and compliance over creativity and critical thinking. Standardized testing rules the day. Schools that don't meet artificial benchmarks risk losing not only minds along the way, but their funding. Teachers have little flexibility, parents even less. Children, especially the sensitive, the independent, or the neurodivergent, are forced to sit still, suppress themselves, and absorb pre-approved content designed not to awaken minds, but to condition them. What's wrong with our school systems? In short, nearly everything. The structure of education runs counter to how children naturally learn. If a child doesn't fit the mold, if they're creative, spirited, or can't sit still in a fluorescent-lit box for hours, they are flagged. Often, these are children who are awake, aware, and attuned to a deeper truth, and yet labeled as a problem. Why are they disruptive? Are they unruly, or are they reacting to a toxic home, processed food, sugar overload, chemical-laced water, heavy metals in their environment, or vaccine injury? These children often cannot focus, not because something is wrong with them, but because everything they have absorbed is wrong. Let's name two culprits, sugar and dairy. Both are inflammatory and deeply disruptive to the nervous system. Sugar, in the form of juice, cereals, processed snacks, and hidden sweeteners, is not a treat, but a neurological assault. Dairy, despite its revered place in the food pyramid, is not a health food. It's an allergen, a mucus-producing, immune-suppressing substance. The child industrial complex. Enter Ritalin, Adderall, and an entirely new set of amphetamines and psychotropics that are routinely prescribed to children as young as 5. In some states, it's become routine to recommend these drugs before trying dietary changes, emotional support, or lifestyle modifications. Let's be honest, this is not about healing, it is about control. If your child resists conformity, expresses divergent thinking, or questions authority, the system will try to suppress it. When the behavior seems unruly or doesn't fit the narrow definition of normal, drugs become the enforcement tool. Even worse, psychotropic medications, originally developed for adults with severe psychiatric disorders, are being prescribed to school-age children under the guise of support. What we are doing is medicating gifted, empathic, non-conforming children into submission. Nourish to flourish. Get back to basics. Start with food. Change their diet fully and immediately. No sugar, no dairy, no white flour, no additives, no GMOs. It may take time. It may take a battle of wills. Your child's future health and mental clarity depend on it. If your child has been vaccinated or you suspect injury or immune disruption, seek naturopathic support or the care of a classical homeopath. This last distinction is critical. Classical homeopathy uses one remedy at a time, tailored precisely to the individual. Combination remedies, though popular and widely available, treat surface symptoms and dilute the deeper healing process. Combination remedies, though popular, treat surface symptoms and dilute the deeper healing process. Chiropractic care is also essential. especially in early development. It aligns the body, calms the nervous system, and allows the child to grow into their body without unnecessary interference. Other helpful therapies include craniosacral adjustments, acupuncture, and naturopathic medicine. Of course, traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda are also great sources. Try to eliminate gluten and genetically modified grains, which are inflammatory and hard to digest. Be cautious with dairy alternatives. Soy is often genetically modified, rice milk can be high in arsenic, almond milk can carry chemical additives, and generally all of the alternatives contain an enormous amount of seed oils. Seed oils are not only inflammatory, but they stay in the body for decades, whereas clean oils like avocado are eliminated relatively quickly. One of the best options is organic coconut milk. It's nutrient-dense, clean, and has a natural sweetness that kids tend to love. For infants or toddlers, organic goat milk, if tolerated, can be a viable option, structurally closer to human breast milk than cows. I used to rotate milks in our household. Once I poured an alternative milk into a regular carton in order to get my toddler son to drink it. When he caught me, he was furious and refused to touch it again. So very much with children is psychological. You have to stay sharp. You have to be ahead of them, not in trickery, but in understanding. Of course, emotional stress must be minimized. Don't argue or complain about lack of money or relationship problems in front of your kids. Don't pretend children don't notice. They do. They sense everything. Many so-called behavior problems are cries for harmony. Education as liberation. The public school system is designed to make outliers feel like failures. If your child shows promise in ways that don't align with standardized benchmarks, they are deemed deficient. If possible, co-educate. This doesn't mean expensive tutoring to help them pass school metrics. It means offering alternative worldviews and knowledge sources that empower their spirit. If you can homeschool, consider it seriously. Not every family can, but those who do often discover a renewed relationship with learning on both sides. Whether you homeschool or simply supplement, the goal is to awaken the thinker, the explorer, the creative soul. Help them question, help them know themselves, because in the end, personal freedom begins with the right to think clearly, with the right to think freely. Everything else follows from there. Beyond the treadmill. Back to the school system and the trap it sets. The tests, the benchmarks, the race to the top. You know the drill. Ace the standardized tests, get into the right school, earn a spot in a name-brand college, and then what? Get spit into a life that looks just like everyone else's? That entire mindset is rooted in the fear of not achieving a goal that is illusory. If you want a regimented life, if you want your children to do what everyone else does, then stay on the treadmill. On the other hand, if you're here reading this, chances are you're already questioning the system. Now for the truth. Your child is going to walk their own path, whether you allow it or resist it. You cannot mold their spirit into your fantasy of success, and you shouldn't. Take Harvard, for instance. I've had relatives and friends who've worked inside the Ivy League machine. One is a counselor who deals directly with students, and he's been blunt. Depression, disconnection, and suicidal ideation are rampant among those who feel like they don't fit the mold. Many are overwhelmed not by academic pressure, but by the crushing pressure of expectation and conformity. Don't be seduced by glossy brochures or prestigious names. These institutions often churn out system-loyal individuals who continue to prop up the very world we are trying to transform. They are not necessarily bastions of truth. They are factories of obedience dressed in tweed and tradition. Rethink the framework of what success looks like. Question what you've been told. Question where the path is leading and whether it is really yours or your child's. There are countless beautiful, intelligent, vibrant children who are labeled underachievers simply because they fail to mimic a broken curriculum. That is not a malfunction. That is early resistance. Honor it, hone it, and nurture it. Do not let it die or be drugged into submission, but help shape it into something meaningful and lasting. These are our future entrepreneurs, artists, writers, and out-of-the-box thinkers. It's common to succumb to pressure from teachers, administrators, or doctors who recommend putting your child on drugs for the sake of performance. You might see a temporary improvement in grades. But what price are you willing to pay for that bump in GPA? Drugs create dependency and alter brain chemistry. They interfere with emotional development. They carry lasting side effects that may not show up until years later. Depression, anxiety, and mood disorders are often signs of deep toxicity and unresolved imbalances. They can be addressed, but not through suppression, never through sedation. Also consider the psychological and EMF stress of digital exposure. Smartphones, video games, and the constant dopamine hit of social media. These rewire the brain, feed toxicity, and increase instability. This is all part of the picture. You cannot separate mental wellness from physical, emotional, and digital environments. Protect your child. Be brave enough to say no to what everyone else is doing and address the root causes. The Rebel's Remedy. Before we leave this topic, we must speak plainly about our disappearing health freedoms. Whether or not you believe in them, if you're forced to vaccinate your child with no legal recourse, with the vaccine manufacturers not even held liable for any damage they may cause, you're not free. When you're compelled to put your child on pharmaceuticals so they can remain in school, you're not free. When hospitals overrule parental rights and perform medical procedures against your will, even kidnapping children under the guise of protective services, you're not free. When food is chemically altered, genetically modified, sprayed with biotechnological agents like Upheal, which is Bill Gates' unlabeled invisible coating now found on produce nationwide, and you are not even told, you are not free. When labeling GMO food is discouraged because it might trigger consumer hesitation, you are not free. When organic farms are criminalized, raw milk producers raided, and backyard gardens bulldozed under zoning codes manipulated by agro-giants, you are not free. Don't think for a moment these things are rare. Violations are occurring all over the world, and especially in the so-called lands of the free. It goes deeper. When you're forced to participate in centralized insurance systems, when your medical data is mined and sold, when you are denied access to natural remedies because they haven't been approved by entities funded by pharmaceutical companies, what part of that sounds like choice? If you think these measures are here for your protection, look closer. Look at who profits. Follow the money. Ask yourself, who's making the rules? Who's behind the mandates, the regulations, the suppression of natural medicine, the denial of food integrity, the targeting of healers and farmers? More often than not, it's people sitting on the boards of biotech companies, pharmaceutical giants, and chemical conglomerates. These are not unbiased actors. They are not truth seekers. They are profit makers. The regulatory agencies meant to protect us are in bed with them. Too often, they are one and the same. What is the answer? Do not follow the company line. Question everything. Examine who is saying what and why. Cross-reference. Dig deeper. Use discernment. Make solid choices for you and your child. The illusion of freedom is paper thin. We are nearing a critical threshold, not just in health rights, but in human rights. You address this by not asking for permission. Reclaim your body, reclaim your children, reclaim the rebel's right to natural well-being. That is called freedom. Thank you for listening to this excerpt.